Good morning, everybody. It is the 1st of April 2024, Easter Monday. Easter Monday. I didn't realise it was Easter until I saw all you lot posting your photographs around the world of having guilt-free Sunday night boozing. They do not celebrate Easter over here in Japan, so it's not a day off here. For them of you that don't know, we get about 12 or more national holidays here in Japan, but unlike the UK, these holidays are not always on a Monday. So they can land any day of the week. Now, if they land on a Saturday, you've lost it. You've lost that national holiday. It's gone, poof, in the wind. If it lands on a Sunday, you get the Monday off. But yeah, the thing that the UK has got over on Japan is these bank holidays, these national holidays, you always get it on a Monday. So you do get that long weekend. Now, Easter for me, it don't bring very many fond memories because Easter in the UK is when the caravan season started. This is when you would hook up your touring caravan to the back of your car and go and drive somewhere and sit in a field with nothing to do for the entire weekend. And Easter, the bank holidays at Easter, you could get to do that for 4 fucking nights. And it was the start of hell for me. Hell. Because that's what we would do every year from Easter until the middle of October. And it was, I cannot begin to tell you, although I am going to do during this podcast, I cannot begin to tell you how awful it is to be the child of caravanners. Caravanners. And for them of you who listen to this podcast, if you're thinking of buying yourself a caravan, think of your children. Think of the kids, for crying out loud. It's no fun for them. And especially now with how great being at home is. It must be terrible if they're looking at their parents walking around a caravan dealership looking at caravans. Don't do it. Look at your kids before you put down that deposit for a caravan. Look at your kids' faces and think to yourself, I'm talking to the parents now, think to yourself, this is the face that you're going to be looking at 24 hours a day when you're caravanning. And it's going to get worse as they get older. So don't do it. Don't do it. Stay at home. Stay at home. Now, my mother's sister, a keen caravanner, and my cousin Paul, he used to go with them. So my mother started badgering my dad about buying a caravan. So they bought this little tiny mobile caravan. So we used to go caravanning with them. Now, when you go caravanning, you can either find yourself a caravan site and go and rack up and do that. Or you can join this caravan club. And I remember the caravan club logo, it were 2 C's in a horseshoe. And my uncle had joined this caravan club. So they'd give you a schedule and they'd go to different places every weekend. And they'd join up with a caravan club. So my mum and dad did that for the couple of weekends. And then I think the third weekend, it was like, fuck that. There's too many people. There's too many people coming round and saying hello. You don't get a minute's peace. So I loved it. That first couple of weekends, I loved it because there were new kids to play with. So you'd be mucking about and playing football because being an only child, there were no kids to play with when I was growing up. So you had these 2 weekends, you had a different load of friends. You'd make new friends. Obviously, I had friends back at home that I'd play with at weekend. But I thought, if we're going to be doing this, at least I'm going to have kids to play with. The third week, oh, fuck it. My dad was saying, I'm sick of there's too many people. You're not getting a minute's peace. So we ended up going to this, what can only be described as a fucking field. It was a cold, wet field at the start of April. And there were one of them toilets that you get on a building site, and that's where you went to the toilet. And there were no what to do. We'd not taken his bike, so we couldn't go cycling anywhere. So there were fuck all to do, and I were bored shitless. There were nobody on the campsite. Every other person that had gone caravanning that weekend had not gone to this place because it were pissing it down. We'd looked at weather forecast. It's going to rain all weekend, right? Well, are we not staying at home? Well, we've bought this caravan. We might as well get us money's worth. So off we went to somewhere that was shitter than staying at home. When you go on holiday, fucking holiday, you go to places that are better than where you live. That's why you go on holiday. You don't go on holiday to relax. You go on holiday to go somewhere better than where you live. That's the main fucking point of an holiday. And my mum was going, oh, we can have a holiday every weekend. It's going to be fun. That third weekend, I knew this were going to be shit. And it were going to be shit for a long time because I were about 8. I were about 8 at the time. So off we went. Now, my dad not being a experienced caravanner, I remember that third weekend we drove all the way to this campsite, and my dad had left handbrake on caravan, so there were a smell of burning. Anyway, when we got there, the brake discs on caravan were fucking white hot, and yeah, but we just hadn't been driving that long for a spark to ignite the caravan and set it on fire. Unfortunate. So we got there, it were rubbish, and we came back home. So I thought the novelty's going to have to wear off. It's going to have to wear off. And it didn't. So we kept going to these little places here and there. And we'd have every month or so, we'd go on a caravanning club one with me auntie and uncle. Now, these caravanning clubs, as it got warmer, just have a drink. As it started getting warmer and you start getting into the summer, these caravanning clubs just sort of descended into alcoholic barbecue debauchery. And for a kid growing up, seeing this, I didn't know what the fuck were going on. So I remember one particular caravanning club weekend, we were at Kilnsley Crag. Now, Kilnsley Crag is in the Swaledale Valley, and it is beautiful. It is quintessential Yorkshire. So Kilnsley Crag is this big rock face with an overhang where rock climbers regularly go up. And there's only one road in and one road out, and it sort of snakes along the side of the river. It's fucking beautiful. Beautiful. So in the shadow of Kilnsley Crag at the other side of the river, there's this field. And this particular weekend, the caravanning club were going there. So my dad says, right, we'll go there. We'll meet up with your auntie and uncle, and we'll have a weekend there. And I thought, great, fucking great. So we go there, and my cousin, who were 5 years older than me, and he himself were getting pissed off with it. It was the first weekend where his mum and dad had said, "Oh, you can stay at home. I'm sick of you fucking moaning. Just don't bother. You don't have to come." So I had nobody to play with. So I had to go out and make new friends. Now, what I'd noticed this one weekend is there were no kids. I was the only kid there. And my auntie and uncle seemed to be a bit pissed off that I was there because I overheard. Couldn't you got anybody to look after Darren? Anyway, we're on this caravanning club thing, and the barbecues were going, this, that, and the other, and I don't know. It seemed weird. It seemed fucking weird. So what you'd do is people would bring home brew, and there'd be booze, fucking booze everywhere, and you'd move from caravan to caravan, and you'd be drinking each other's booze. Now, my mother and her sister were not adverse. Not adverse. What was the opposite? Partial. They were partial to drinking. Now, being a couple of tight bastards, they loved it if you could get free booze. So what they did was they were moving from caravan to caravan to caravan and just ploughing into everybody else's booze. So my dad and my uncle Bernard were busy on barbecue, cooking sausage and stuff. And my mum and my auntie had just disappeared. So after about an hour and a half, they just turned up, shit-faced, absolutely shit-faced. And they'd been escorted back by this fella who looked very pissed off. Very pissed off. Anyway, absolutely blind drunk. So my auntie had a party trick. And the party trick was she'd always throw up. When she threw up, it was time for her to go to bed. That were her party trick. That were the thing that she did. You know, she got to a certain point in the night, she'd throw up on herself and it was time to go to bed. Imagine that. Imagine that. Now, I just saw that as normal. You know, she'd wake up in the morning, "Oh, you did your party trick again last night, Margaret." "Really? I was sick?" Yep. So this particular time, she goes to stand up to go to the toilet and she just face planted, straight onto the field, about an inch and a half away from some cow shit. So my uncle picked her up and he walked her towards caravan. As he's walking towards caravan, I'm thinking, "Oh, she's not been sick." The fucking very moment that idea popped into my head, she threw up all over herself. And it were a flailing one. You know, she started throwing, I'll never forget, she started throwing up off her left-hand shoulder. And it just arced around to the right. So she started off up high from the left and just all the way down to the right. It landed all over my Uncle Bernard's feet. He's like, "Oh, you dirty sod." Gets her in the caravan, throws her on the bed because they put the beds up. They put the beds up before they started the barbecue because they knew it were going to get bumpy. Threw her on bed, slammed the caravan door shut, and she's left with a bucket at the side of her with a bit of dettol in bottom. That bucket had already been prepared. So my dad and my Uncle Bernard are on barbecue. My mum's asleep. And I was saying, "Daddy, just take her back to the caravan. Put her back in caravan." She's right. Anyway, mother falls off the deck chair. Dad gets her up, takes her back to the caravan. So I'm just sat there with my little fucking sausage roll or my little hot dog, burnt on the outside, fucking raw meat on the inside because it's the second barbecue my uncle's ever done, and he doesn't know how to go on. So he's lit the charcoal. Charcoal's lit. He's thrown the sausage on straight away as soon as fire gets going. It's like eating a fucking piece of coal on outside, and then inside it's still fucking frozen in parts. So you've got the two sisters. One of them's thrown up on herself. My mother's passed out on a deck chair and been taken. I'm there with my uncle and my dad eating salmonella-ridden food, and sun's going down, and there's no kids to play with. At least it was sunny. At least it was sunny. So the sun goes down, and then my uncle Bernard and my dad are looking at each other. They're not three sheets to win because the men in the family could kind of keep it together when it came to booze. They'd married into the family, so they were just normal boozers. So it got to about 10 o'clock, and me and my dad, off we go to caravan. Now there were no toilets. There were no toilets on this caravan site because it was just a field. So what you had in every caravan, you had this bathroom, and there were a chemical toilet in the bathroom, right? Now, like with most people who have a chemical toilet in a motorhome or in a caravan, you've got a toilet, it's there, it's for pissing in and it's for shitting in. But like everybody in the UK, if you've got one of these toilets in your caravan or your motorhome, I don't know if it's a UK thing. Don't use the fucking toilet. Don't use the toilet. We'll stop. Don't shit in it. Don't piss in it. We'll stop. But there's a toilet there for shitting and pissing. Yeah, but don't use it. You're not allowed to use the toilet that's there for shitting and pissing in. You're not allowed to use that. So we couldn't use it. So what we had was a bucket. Now, when you're 8 or 9 year olds, you can drink a gallon and a half of water. You could throw down 2 tins of Coca-Cola, some Fanta, and you can go to bed with a gut full of pop and sleep right through without needing a piss. If you're sharing that caravan with a couple of middle-aged people, it's a nightmare. Now, you think you're in a caravan, you're with 2 people in their late 30s, early 40s, who've been boozing all night. You're not allowed to use the chemical toilet because it needs emptying. Woe betide, it needs emptying. So what my dad did was, he'd leave a bucket out. So if you needed to go to the toilet, you'd piss in bucket. Now, where they slept and where I slept, it were a tiny caravan. So there'd be a table and 2 seats. So at night, you'd drop the table down, and the cushions that were your backrests would be put where the table was, and that'd be kind of a tiny double bed. Where I was at the other end of the caravan, there were a curtain and a bench, and I'd sleep on that bench. So you'd draw the curtain and sleep on the bench. Now, you never got a decent sleep because nowhere's ever as comfy as your bed. But every night, every morning around 2 o'clock, you'd just hear this trickling. And oh my God. And you just know that beyond that curtain, my mother was squatting over a bucket, having a piss. Dad too. Yet my dad would pick it up. Now, the only way you knew, and before I go on, the people who were using the bucket were over the other end of the caravan. I say the other end. The people who were using the bucket were 4 feet away from me at the other side of the caravan. Right? So if I'm the one that's going to be using this bucket, I would do the decent thing and leave it by my side of the caravan. Oh no, oh no. That fucking bucket were just the other side of the curtain from where I was sleeping. From where my head was. Not from where my feet were. You can't put it bit door because I might go out in the middle at night and kick it over. So you put it in corner where my fucking head was. Now, the only way that you'd know if it were my dad pissing or my mum pissing was my dad had picked the bucket up and piss in it. So if the splashing of piss into the bucket were at head height, that were your dad. If the noise were coming from below, that were your mother squatted over the bucket. Yeah. And nothing says the caravan season has started more than waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, listening to your mother pissing in a tin bucket. My childhood, ladies and gentlemen, my childhood. And then when somebody has been on the booze all night, that piss that they're taking in the middle at night, it doesn't smell good. It doesn't smell good. It doesn't matter how much Dettol you put in the bottom of that bucket. That piss does not smell good. And you can smell it because the bucket's left at the end of your bed. The bucket is left at not at their end, at your end. And my cousin Paul would say, I don't know if my auntie and uncle had got together with my mum and dad and explained what the bathroom etiquette was in a caravan when there's no toilets. I don't know if they'd explain that, but our Paul was saying to me, yeah, you're waking up in the middle of the night with a fucking nostril full of your parents' piss. So one of them would have to get up, well, it were always my dad. They'd have to get up early in the morning when we're on these caravaning clubs and go and empty it somewhere. So, yeah, you're getting woken up in the middle of the night by your mum and dad pissing in a bucket. And then you knew it was time to get up when your dad's sort of looking left and right to see if nobody's watching. And off he goes with the piss bucket, the night's piss. The bucket that is the night's piss. And he'd go and find somewhere quiet away from caravans and just empty it out, wash it out in the river and come back. Like living in fucking Victorian times. What you're doing is, now, being at home in the 80s, when you compare it to now, we're fucking rubbish. 4 channels of telly, rubbish telly, and it's pissing it down. But even that were better than sitting in a fucking caravan. The telly that we used to take with us were black and white. So you were watching a small black and white TV, which you couldn't watch all the time because you had to run it off my dad's car battery. And if you watched it too much, the car battery would run down and have to get a jump off somebody else. And you're just thinking, why are we doing this? Why are we fucking going somewhere worse every weekend? Oh, you're getting these mini holidays. Mini holidays. The mini holiday, in a nutshell, you're going somewhere where there's no to do. You're going somewhere where there's no kids to play with. You're going somewhere with no running water. You're having to piss in a bucket. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea to this day what they were doing when we needed a shit. I don't know if anybody, if it were just a case of holding it in, because the chemical toilet was not allowed to be used. It was sacred, absolutely sacred. I don't think anybody would have dumped in the bucket. I don't think that would have happened. But yeah, that bucket was the bane of my life between the months of March and October. And you think in the summer holidays we were there for 6 weeks. And how unadventurous my parents were. We had this touring caravan. Hook it onto the back of the car and then go somewhere different every weekend. That was the only shining light because you didn't know where you were going to go and you didn't know what it was going to be like. So that were kind of a surprise until after that first season. I'm sick of towing this caravan. I'm sick and tired of towing this caravan. And I thought, right, we're getting rid of it. We're getting rid of the caravan. Nope. They found a site and they left it on that site. So I thought they were going to leave it. It was going to be a kind of like a storage thing. They were going to leave it there until they sold it. Nope. We found the most boring site in the Yorkshire Dales, and we went up there every weekend. Rain, sleet, snow, every weekend. The caravan, Darren, the caravan. So, pissing in buckets, black and white TVs, rain, nothing to do. That was the weekend for me. So, for them of you going round caravan dealerships this Easter weekend, because that was the most popular time to go around. There's a place in Boredom near Doncaster. I fucking hate that place. That's where we used to spend our Easters, looking at new caravans every 2 years. Bawtry, Boredom. It's famous for its caravan dealership. Anybody who listens to this, if you live near there, go petrol bomb that fucking place and save these children's future summers and weekends. So, here's to never taking a caravan holiday ever again in my life. Fuck caravans and fuck caravanning. And if you do have a caravan or a mobile home, use the chemical toilet. Your kids don't want to smell your piss. And I'll leave you on that, everybody. Happy Easter. Fucking caravans.